The American presidents were people just like you and like me, or at least that's how the founders intended them to be. Welcome back to my 6th installment, where we're talking about the historical presidents of the United States and their nicknames. Last time we talked about Thomas Jefferson and his positive nicknames. And believe you me, that man had a lot to be lauded for. But he also tended to be quite the hypocrite when it came to things like freedom and democracy. So today, we're going to cover 3 of Thomas Jefferson's most popular negative nicknames, something that you would have called him to insult him or demean him, whether on paper or to his face. And we're going to jump in here real quick with a first biting insult. A negative nickname for Thomas Jefferson would have been Long Tom. This was a jab at Jefferson's tall and lanky stature. He stood nearly 6'2", which was gigantic for his era. And he didn't help himself very much. From what we know of historical accounts, he carried himself with this awkward, shambling gait that his political opponents seized on. And as I highlighted in a previous episode, he kind of made this kind of physical teasing fair game. He and his anti-federalist friends were quick on the draw to make fun of their opponent's physical stature, especially John Adams. Sit down, John, you fat mother! But this nickname wasn't just about his physical stature. Those who didn't like him considered him slippery, aloof, and cold in conversations, rarely showing his true thoughts and intentions. So Jefferson's opponents of all shapes and sizes used the nickname Long Tom to make fun of both his body and his persona. Yeah, the next nickname I'm not going to say out loud, for good reasons. Because this is it. This was a controversial nickname even in its time. It was thrown at Jefferson because of his support of the 3/5 Compromise. The 3/5 Compromise is an ugly deal that was made in 1787 to ostensibly prevent a civil war, which would end up happening a century later anyways for this very reason. States in the South during this time raised the issue that they believed they had inadequate political representation in Congress and the presidency, and a deal was reached to count 3/5 of a slave state's population of enslaved people when it came to population calculations for political representation. I could definitely get more into the weeds on this. Get on with it! But suffice it to say, Jefferson's association with it and support of it, and the fact that it pretty much guaranteed his election to the presidency, was illegitimate because it was propped up by a system that he supposedly claimed to hate when he wrote the phrase, "all men are created equal."
Do you or do you not hold that the precept that all men are created equal is meant literally?
And finally, we have the nickname Mad Tom. It's a well-known historical fact that Jefferson was an avid Francophile. He loved France and its culture, and he spent a great deal of time there after the American Revolution. But that adoration continued even as the French Revolution spiraled into what we now know as the Reign of Terror. Jefferson famously wrote that he would rather see the earth drenched in blood than liberty die. He wrote that, quote, "the tree of liberty must from time to time be refreshed by the blood of patriots and tyrants." His political enemies and those across the nation used this to paint him as a dangerous, radical man who wanted to bring the guillotines to America. Now, this nickname faded after he governed as president and proved to be very, very moderate, very middle of the road, but it was a very potent smear in its time. So you see, those who wanted to defame Thomas Jefferson had quite the repertoire of insults at their disposal, and in fact, there were several, including atheist and the philosopher, several others that I didn't cover in this video. If you want a longer video, let me know in the comments. I'm Teddy Ebby, and this has been the 3 most popular negative nicknames of our 3rd U.S. President, Thomas Jefferson. Join me next time when we talk about our 4th U.S. President, James Madison, and his 3 most popular positive nicknames.